What is going on, everybody? Baseball Banter makes its triumphant return. Yes, we have missed the last 2 or 3 weeks. I don't remember. I don't really care. All I know is that we're back. As always, I'm joined by my brother from another mother, the kid with the partially golden locks, even though he's probably going to change that and look like an idiot again, Mike Hewitt. Mikey boy, how are you today, buddy?
I'm doing very good, thank you. And they're not partially highlighted. I call them frosted tips, but yes, I will be re-highlighting them in a couple weeks.
Is that what your boyfriend calls them, frosted tips?
I don't have a boyfriend. Not into that.
With that haircut, you could have fooled me. I'm just saying. I'm just pointing it out there, Mikey boy. So, we're not here to talk about your sexual preferences, Mike, even though it is a very interesting conversation. We should think about having that as a podcast one day because you'd help out a lot of confused 14-year-old young men. But, anyways, topic for another day. Baseball season is coming down to an end. Yes, it's sad, but, the Texas Rangers can only lose so many games, and we can only see so many GMs fired and everything else, and managers get fired too. But, honestly, right now, baseball kind of sucks. It does. You and I were talking about this before we got on camera. You got the Marlins playing teams like, the Braves or some crap like that. It's just the Rockies playing, the Padres. It's games that don't mean anything. These guys are worried about picking up 18 holes. Their bags are packed. They're like, all right, let's just get this last season over with. So, honestly, baseball's been kind of crappy because there's only 2 divisional races going on right now. So, that's in both Centrals, the NL and AL Central. And, Mike, perfect segue. With the Royals, who sit only a game behind now, thanks to a David Price almost blowing this game tonight, and Brad Ausmus's outstanding managerial skills, and the Pirates only 2 games. I think it's 2 games behind the Cardinals, and they actually clinched a wild card berth for sure. What team do you feel has a better chance of winning their respective division, and with only a few days left to go in the season?
Well, I think you mean Kansas City or Pittsburgh, because Detroit's currently in first, right? Okay.
Kansas City or Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Kansas City, and for a couple reasons. Number one, 2-game lead for St. Louis. I know they're still playing right now, but the rest of the schedule for St. Louis, which includes a couple more games with Chicago, and then they go to Arizona, those teams suck. And given the fact that it's a 2-game lead, the larger lead of the 2 divisions, obviously Detroit's only up a game, I think it's going to be much easier for St. Louis to wrap up that division. Again, I still think both Detroit and St. Louis end up winning their divisions, but given the fact that St. Louis has virtually no difficult games left on the schedule, and they have the larger lead in the division, I think they're going to pull away and have an easier time winning the Central than Detroit will.
And I completely agree with you. The Cardinals, everyone's been wondering, what's been up with their offense this year. They have not been nearly as dominating as they were last year for an offensive squad. Last year, I remember they led the NL and with runners in scoring position by a huge margin, and they scored a lot of runs. This year, they were for the longest time when the Brewers, before they epically collapsed, everyone's like, well, when's the Cardinals going to start playing better? When's the Cardinals going to start playing better? And then, the Cardinals over the last month here or so, even when Adam Wainwright in August having a down month, since they got Yachty back and everything else, he's been dominant as dominant can be. Actually won his 20th game yesterday. But, the Cardinals are starting hitting again. Their offense has looked a lot better over this past month, and their starting pitching has been pretty good. I mean, it doesn't hurt when you got Adam Wainwright heading that rotation. And the Pirates, though, they haven't been a slouch either. They've been a pretty good team this last month, and congrats to them for confirming what I said they would do again. They'd make the playoffs for a second straight year. A lot of people said that the Cardinals were destined to regress some because of the year they had last year, but they're going to be in the playoffs once again, and that's a great atmosphere in Pittsburgh Pirate baseball in October. And so I have to agree, simply for the fact that the Tigers' bullpen is so ass. Just tonight they lucked out. If it wasn't for Miggy Cabrera hitting that nice walk-off single to score Ian Kinsler tonight, after David Price dominated the White Sox through 8 innings, and then he coughed it up in the 9th, and Brad Ausmus should have had Joakim Soria warming up, or Joe. Well, I don't want to say Joe Nathan because he's just as bad as anyone else you could put out there. But maybe Joakim Soria. But apparently, the Tigers traded two of their top pitching prospects for Joakim Soria, and Ausmus is like, this is a head scratcher. I have a bullpen full of crappy relievers and a closer that can't close out ball games who's blown 7 games. How the hell do I use Joakim Soria? I got an idea. Let's put him in the 7th inning mop-up role in a close game, because when we get past him, a reliever that can actually, close down ball games. He had 18 saves coming over. His ERA was under 3. Had a nice whip of 1. Good strikeout to walk ratio. He's like, throw that out the window. I want Joe Nathan out there, buddy. Joe Cool with that cool whip of 1.5, walking like 5 batters per 9. The strikeout rate's pretty garbage. Strikeout to walk ratio is like 2-to-1. But you know something? Teams that have World Series aspirations, that's what you need. Lots of base runners in the ninth in close games. So, yeah. So instead of putting out someone out there when David Price had 2 outs in the ninth with a 3-2 game, he leaves him in. It is what it is. I can see he's trying to let his horse go out there and finish up the game. Fine, it is whatever it is. But KC, after the Tigers went and did business and took 2 or 3 from the guys, what they needed to do at the K in Kansas City. They lost that makeup game to Cleveland. They made it interesting, and then the last 2 nights they've pounded Cleveland pretty good. They won 7-0 tonight, and KC has that awesome, outstanding bullpen. You don't beat Wade Davis, Greg Holland, those guys very often. They have Herrera. They have guys that just come out of there and lock down ball games. And their starting rotation's been pretty good too. Danny Duffy, Ventura, James Shields have had a nice rotation. So KC may be a game down, and they may have lost 2 or 3 to Detroit. They didn't play Detroit very good at all this year. There were some close games, but the Tigers pretty much dominated that series. Is henceforth the reason why they even got a 1-game lead on them as it is. But KC, with how good their bullpen is, rotation is good enough. And their offense has been a bit better as of late, even though they were a bit stagnant there through the Tigers series. I could still foresee them taking the division from the Tigers a few games to go, just simply for the fact that the Tigers' bullpen is so bad. Their offense has been better. The rotation's been a lot more consistent over the last, week or a couple weeks, past month, I should say, actually. Verlander hasn't been complete ass. Porcello's look good. David Price, he did have a good start tonight, minus the 3 runs given up. But their defense has been better too. Do I think the Tigers can win the division? Yeah, I think they are going to win the division. But with a 1-game lead and the way the Tigers bullpen is, they can't hold leads, and I don't know. I really think that this is the Royals could come and take this division. Unlike Pittsburgh, where I have utmost confidence in them, or excuse me, St. Louis, I have utmost confidence in them taking that division in the NL Central. So that's all I got. You got anything else to add on to that one, Mikey boy?
Nope.
All right. So moving on. Now that we're talking about who we think is going to be in the are going to be a couple of teams in the playoffs. Who is your American League favorite and National League favorite to go to the World Series?
Why don't you go first? You start us off here, John.
Okay. So my American League favorite going to the World Series is the Angels. Why? Because unlike Dave Dombrowski, who failed kind of miserably at trying to make the bullpen better, at the start of the year back in December when you can go back and check my videos, I'm like, hey, guess what, guys? We got Joe Nathan and Jabba Chamberlain, but our bullpen still sucks. So, and guess what happened? They got Jabba Chamberlain and Joe Nathan, and then they go out and trade and get Joakim Soria, who they don't know how to use, even though they gave up 2 top prospects for him. Yeah, good stuff right there. Their bullpen still sucks. So the Angels went out and they're like, guess what? Jerry Poto's like, you know something? We blew a boatload of saves in the beginning of the year. Our bullpen is not locked down. So what are we going to do? We go out and get Jason Gurley. What are we going to do? We go out and get Houston Street. Now they get Street, Morin, Jepson, Grilly, that one guy that was on, I think it's Joe Smith, who used to be on Cleveland. They got a bunch of arms out there they can toss. Now, the rotation is a bit in question. Weaver's had a good year. Yeah, sure, he has 18 wins, blah, blah, blah. Wins are a terrible stat. I don't care. The ERA is not bad this year. But you're minus Garrett Richards, and Weaver is that finesse field guy and whatnot. Sometimes that can hurt you in the playoffs a bit. When you have a guy like Garrett Richards that can go out there and throw 98, 99, has that wipeout slider, good curve. I mean, that kind of dominate. He has true frontline starter stuff, and that kind of stuff takes you far in the playoffs. It does not, Mikey boy. You need that true frontline ace. And with the minus Garrett Richards, a lot of people are like, oh, man, the Angels, are they screwed now? But look what they did. They were trailing the A's in the standings when Garrett Richards went down. And last time I checked, the Angels ended up getting a 10-game lead on them. Now, mind you, the Athletics have played like dog crap. They've definitely helped that. And the Angels destroyed them in this last few games in the series before that closed out. But, Anaheim, Albert Pujols this year is having he's not quite Albert Pujols, but he's hitting close to 280. The on base isn't bad. Close to 30 homers, over 100 RBIs. He's looked a little bit more like Pujols. Hamilton's been hurt for a good chunk of the year. Fine, it is whatever. But then you got guys like Mickey Trout at the top of that lineup, who's going to win the MVP, I believe. You got guys like Cole Calhoun, who's had a good year, and then Howie Kendrick and Eric Ibar. 2 nice good players. Chris Iannetta has done pretty good work for the Angels. He gets pretty underrated out there. So, I mean, they got some nice pieces on that offense, and it really helps that you got Trout and Pujols both hitting well. And, I think their rotation is going to be just good enough. Matt Shoemaker, who knows how he's going to do, who's also a Detroit native, by the way. Matt Shoemaker, I like him. And He's come up and he's done a great job filling in. He's had a very underrated year for the Angels. Even minus Garrett Richards, C.J. Wilson is meh, but I think he's good enough to get you a couple of wins in the playoffs. He's been there, done that before. He was in the World Series with Texas a couple times. Weaver, he's been in the playoffs a couple times with the Angels before, so he knows it. So, and they play pretty good defense. And like I said, with Cole Calhoun, who's had a good year, and then you got Ibar and Trout and Pujols, I think they're my favorite to go in the American League. I just really do. That bullpen's nasty at the end of it. I think they got just enough starting pitching, even though it's not outstanding. But I think with that bullpen and how good their offense has been, they'll score just enough runs to hand the ball over to the 8th, 9th, 7th, 9th, 8th guys. So, and then in the National League, my favorite is the Washington Nationals. When you got that pitching with my boy Dougie Fresh, who the Tigers traded away because they're like, we want Steve Lombardozzi, and we want Ian Kroll, and we want Robbie Ray. So guess what, Nationals? You could have Doug Fister, who's gone out and had his best year ever of his career. So, yeah. Good trade right there. And you got Zimmerman, and you got Steven Strasburg, and Gio Gonzalez is having a subpar year, but hey, he's still decent enough, I guess, in the back end of your rotation. So, I mean, they're just loaded with pitching. And even with the bullpen problems they've had, because I don't know if you saw Rafael Soriano's numbers over the last break. Yeah, they're not pretty. But you know what they do? It's all good. We got Drew Storen. And Drew Storen, picked up on my fantasy squad, by the way, been lights out. He's looking like the closer of the future for sure of that team. And they got a pretty good bullpen, too. And, I mean, they got Ryan Zimmerman back now until he gets hurt and goes on the DL again because it's going to happen, so who knows. And Denard Span, ever since Bryce Harper said that crap about him, maybe not being an everyday player, he's been absolutely amazing. He had like a streak of 35 games straight where he reached base safely. And Bryce Harper's been a bit better since he came off the DL. And Adam LaRoche and Jason Worth and Wilson Ramos has had a great year too. And you got Ian Desmond and Danny Espinosa. I mean, and Anthony Rendon. You can make an argument he's been the MVP of that offense this year. He's been absolutely outstanding. I mean, they got a great defense. They got an outstanding pitching staff. They score enough runs. They're back in their bullpen. Even with Soriano was good. Undoubtedly, Washington's my favorite to go to the World Series. Go ahead, Mikey boy.
Well, before I give you my two favorites, I think Brad Osman should take a lesson from Matt Williams and suggest that maybe substituting your closer isn't the worst idea in the world, as Washington has shown. But I think your two picks for the favorites make sense. I think they're the easy ones. Los Angeles, obviously, now on pace for 100 wins. And Washington, ever since they took off, certainly with the amount of pitching and the hitting on their lineup, they're definitely favorites, and I would have to agree, and I think you covered it sufficiently. But if you want to start the dark horses in this, I'd certainly love to take over.
All right, who's your dark horses for the AL and NL to go to the World Series?
All right, so my dark horse for the American League. It's a little dicey, but I'm thinking Kansas City. I could see Kansas City pulling it off, and it's so funny because I am such a hater of the Kansas City Royals.
Mike, what did I say to you at the start of this year how good Kansas City's bullpen was? Can we just get this out? And you're like, I don't even think they're going to make the playoffs. Didn't I not say to you? Did I not say to you they're going to have a top 3 bullpen in baseball? And did I not say to you they will compete for a wild card spot this year? Did I not say?
I granted them they would compete for the wild card. They just said they weren't going to win it.
You were drinking the haterade. You had all the sugar poured in. You had the spoon. You were stirring that Kool-Aid and you were chugging it. The haterade.
They're a dark horse. I still think it's unlikely. I like Los Angeles, but there's no denying this starting pitching in their bullpen. And I'll be honest, you don't need to score a lot of runs in this postseason. The one thing that scares me about Los Angeles, and of course they have a good bullpen, their offense, obviously you can preach about how great it is, but their starting pitching concerns me. Aside from Weaver, we don't know what Matt Shoemaker's like, We don't know. C.J. Wilson has been decent with Texas in the postseason, but his inconsistency with his tenure in L.A. concerns me some. You could make the same argument for Kansas City. I mean, a lot of those guys would be getting their first crack at postseason baseball as well. But I believe pitching wins in the postseason. And I wouldn't be surprised that if Kansas City gets in there and their pitching continues to dominate, that a few runs a game, they can win those close games. So that'd be my American League pick.
Look at Texas and San Francisco back in 2010. I mean,
Texas
was a juggernaut, and the Giants barely scored anything, and they shut them down. So
they swept them.
Even the best offenses don't win in the postseason because you face good pitching every night. But go if you're AL or if you're NL, excuse me.
National League team, I mean, I don't know if I would consider them a dark horse because they've been in the postseason for many years now. I'd go with St. Louis. I mean, again, this is another team that had trouble scoring runs all season long, and something that they bring to the table that Kansas City really doesn't is the postseason experience. They have true proven performers in the postseason, guys like Adam Wainwright. Michael Wacha got a crack at it last season, and he dominated. I know he's had some trouble with injuries this year. But, their offensive players, Matt Holliday, um, numerous guys that you can pick from on the Cardinals roster. I could see them being a threat and to go compete against Los Angeles or Washington in the postseason.
I don't think Washington's really a dark horse, though.
No. Washington and LA being the favorites.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well then mine then. AL, guess where I'm staying? I'm staying in your division, and I'm going with none other than the Baltimore
It's
Orioles.
a good one. Great
Yes,
bullpen.
this team gets no love. You know what the Baltimore Orioles did? They're like, guess what, guys? We got a pretty good bullpen. Let's go on out Andrew Miller to add with Zach Britton already. You know, he's
Wait. You want to just make fun of me earlier about the whole haterade? How about the haterade you had for my boy Andrew Miller?
that
You're
dude
going to
is
spill the beans on that one. Let's confess about Andrew
that dude
Miller,
is
please.
filthy. Mike, I hadn't watched as much Andrew Miller as you have in the last couple of years. I know you loved his trailer hair,
Love Andrew Miller. Oh, the hair's fine, but he can pitch, man.
but I
Nasty.
was watching him last Sunday on Sunday Night Baseball, and I did not know that guy threw a slider that filthy. I mean, it's unhittable. He's just filthy, and he's just on a dime with the two. It's nasty. I mean, their bullpen's great. Sure, you look at their starting rotation, and you're like, meh. But you know something? You can't really complain about their starting rotation. If you look at them statistically, where they match up with a lot of the rotations in Major League Baseball, they have not been that bad. I mean, they got 93 wins so far this year. They've absolutely dominated a division. No one, expected them to. I mean, look at this. Tillman this year, 3.26 ERA, WHIP a 1.2. Wei and Chen, 3.56 ERA, WHIP a 1.2.
And
Bud
look how
Norris,
Chen's looked since he's come back.
oh, I know. Bud Norris, 3.62 ERA, WHIP a 1.2. Miguel Gonzalez, 3.33 ERA. I mean, you only need four starters. You got four starters with ERAs under mid-threes, and Bud Norris is your worst at 3.62. That's not too shabby. And, those guys, I mean, okay, fine, there's not like an ace there, but when you have that rotation or that back end of the bullpen with O'Day and Britton, Tommy Hunter, Brian Mattis, Ryan Webb, Andrew Miller, it's like you got some, dudes there that can lock down close ball games. You don't have to worry about it. And on top of, I mean, they play good defense. Caleb Joseph has been absolutely amazing for him this year, and then you got guys like Steve Pierce. I mean, it's just they have a nice squad, and I mean, you're not going to have what's his face,
Machado?
not Caleb Joseph. Caleb Joseph, he hasn't been. I got him and Steve Pierce mixed up. Caleb Joseph has done a nice job filling in for leaders, even though he's hit 215. He's got 9 homers in the year. Steve Pierce, what I'm thinking of. Steve Pierce has been absolutely amazing. I mean,
20 bombs.
For the year for him to have when he got released, I think by the Orioles in spring training and then got re-signed. I mean, he's been absolutely amazing. And then you got guys, Adam Jones having an MVP year, and then you can't deny how important Nelson Cruz has been to that offense. And you got guys like J.J. Hardy and David Lowe and Nick Markakis is having a pretty solid year. So I mean, they have a good offense. The only thing that kind of sucks is now you're minus Chris Davis, even though he's been bad anyways. And Manny Machado, he was really bad when he first came back, but he started hitting very, very good before he got hurt again. So I mean, you're minus him as well. But Davis was terrible throughout the year, and I think they're kind of going to rely on Nelson Cruz a little too much, because if you look at that team when Nelson Cruz, remember when he went through a bit of a dry spell, homerless spell, that team's offense did suffer a little bit, so I think they kind of rely on him a little too much. But I mean, we saw Nelson Cruz in the playoffs. I saw it firsthand. 2012 ALCS, he hit 5 home runs. And they absolutely mutilated the Tigers, in that ALCS.
That's when Nelson Cruz was clean, right?
Yeah, he was really clean. The only time he was clean was he was taking a shower. You don't know about his arms. But, I just think they have a really, really underrated squad that no one talks about. And I really, really like, I just really think they could. I think we could have a Beltway World Series is what they call it, them in the Nationals. For the National League, though, there's not really an underrated team, like an underdog team, because, I don't think Pittsburgh has what it takes. That rotation, Garrett Cole's been better. Francisco Liriano has been really, really good.
How about Volquez?
Yeah, Volquez has been absolutely amazing. Jeff Locke's done a nice job coming in. He was down in the minors for a chunk this year, and then he came up and he's pitched well since coming back. The back of their bullpen's pretty good. But, I just I know how good Josh Harrison's been. Starling Marte's been amazing since the All-Star break. I think he leads, is top 5 in slugging percentage in the National League since the All-Star break. He's top 5, or he might even be leading it. I don't remember what the statistic was, but I know he's definitely in that range. But he's been absolutely amazing. And Josh Harrison, you can't talk about how good of a job he's done. He's played everywhere. Like I said about Starling Marte. Even with Andrew McCutchen hurt, for those couple weeks with those ribs, and I feel bad for McCutchen, man. It seems like every other night that guy's getting beamed, And then Russell Martin's been extremely good in the month of September. And, the rotation, Volquez and Liriano and Locke and Cole, I think their rotation is good enough, but I just don't know if I trust them enough to say, hey, they're an underdog pick to go to the World Series. But if I say the Dodgers, I mean, come on now, they got Greinke and Kershaw, and Matt Kemp's having a comeback player of the year type season. Agon, your boy has over 100 stakes on the year, and he's had a great year too. And then you got Yasiel Puig, who's been hitting a bit better as of late, even though he was terrible for about a month there too. But I mean, I don't think how you could say they could be an underdog.
An underdog has over $200 million in payroll.
And I just don't trust St. Louis or Pittsburgh enough to be to be a team to the World Series. So I have no National League favorite for an underdog. I only have one, and that's the American League. In the American League, that's the Baltimore Orioles, because I don't think that team with 93 wins, I think the second best record in baseball, if I'm not mistaken. They don't get any credit, really. No one ever really talks about them being a legitimate World Series team. It's like you always hear about, well, the Dodgers are going to do this, and you got, the Washington Nationals, or you got, freaking Detroit, for example. I don't know how people can think that team is a legitimate contender with how bad their bullpen is. But, they're just having an amazing year. They do. They have the second best record in baseball. It had a Washington in '91, and when's the last time you heard of anyone say the Orioles are a legitimate World Series contender? They never get any hype, and I think that's kind of wrong with the kind of squad they have. They have a good squad.
What about Oakland? Do you think Oakland has a chance?
No, I just don't. I know how good their rotation is, and I know once you get into the playoffs, everything changes. But that team has not played good defense. They found a way to lose a lot of one-run games this year. Even when they got Sean Doolittle back, he's already blown a couple of saves. They try to supplement what they lost in Yoenis Cespedes by getting Adam Dunn, and all they did was get home run or nothing. With him, it's like that. I don't know if you ever watched that show from the 1960s. It was called Home Run Derby, and it was like it's a home run or nothing here at Home Run Derby. And that's what Adam Dunn is. It's a home run or nothing. He gets like no singles whatsoever, or doubles, and I don't know, home run, walk, or strikeout is all it is with that guy. And it's just like, you've seen how they've lost to a lot of bad teams. I mean, they lost 3 or 4 to the White Sox, for example, about a week ago. How can you sit here and say, and what they have the good starters? You see how bad Casimir's been? I mean, I know Lester's been good. Sonny Gray, his last time out against Texas, I watched that game, he got rocked up.
His last 6 starts, Sonny Gray's been bad.
I mean, Jason Hamill's been terrible. Yep. Jeff Samardzija, I mean, okay, he's been good. But, just they have everything falling apart at the wrong time. Their offense isn't scoring runs. They're choking away run games. They can't score out back. They can't close out games at the back end anymore. I mean, their rotation, which was solid, is kind of falling apart right now.
They've only won consecutive games twice this month, I think.
Exactly.
I think they've won 2 games in a row twice.
And when you're going into the postseason, where you're going to be facing the best of the best, and you can't take a split from the White Sox, I mean, it's kind of hard to say they're going to do anything. But who knows? I mean, we saw teams before play like ass, like the 06 Cardinals, like they won 83 games, and you look at the Tigers, they beat them in 5 games. So who knows? But I don't know. You trust Oakland?
Well, I think to be consistent with my argument, you can make the same case that I mentioned with Kansas City being a dark horse in that a lot of good pitching, but a lack of offense. Obviously, Oakland's dealt with that since the loss of Cespedes and Jaso, and Lowry went down for a little bit, and the lack of power from Moss for a while. But I'm sorry, can I keep track record here? Why do the Oakland A's get any benefit of the doubt when it comes to postseason baseball championships? Under Billy Beane, they've sucked in elimination games, which they're going to be playing in a
they're like
play-in game.
They're like 1-13 in their last
1-12 in elimination games. 1-12, and they're going to have to play that game 163, or their wild card game, whatever you want to call it. So,
can you imagine if they got to face King Felix in that elimination game? Man,
that's not going to happen. And by the way, did you see King Felix tonight? Real ace job tonight when you need a win. 8 runs in 4 2/3 innings. Are you joking? Against Toronto. I mean, they're done. They have 83 wins. They can get 88. That's their max. They have 5 games left. Oakland and Kansas City already have 86. I'm imagining both those teams can win at least 2 of the next 5. I think that if Seattle somehow got in, it would involve a crazy tiebreaker thing where each team would have to play each other, then get to the actual wild card game itself. It's not happening.
Iwakuma's been kind of too as of late as well, and they lost Chris Young. He's got shut down, I think, too for the rest of the year.
Yeah, they're done.
But,
It was a good.
hey,
It was a good
Paxton,
effort.
that kid's nasty. I like James Paxton a lot.
Oh yeah.
But no, I completely agree. I mean, whatever. So we were going to talk about this team most destined to fail, and I think there's two teams for me. I think the Tigers is one. I have no faith in this. You know what's weird, Mike? Is last couple of years you and I talked about the playoffs, and I had the utmost confidence in the Tigers every year. You can go back and look at previous postseason videos. I thought they had a chance to win it, and watch this team this year, a team that I just doubt terribly. Because I don't trust their defense. I don't trust their offense. I don't trust any team that has a closer with a 1.6 whip and 7 blown saves to win a World Series. Because, he's blown 7 saves. Those get magnified times a million when your games are numbered then. In every game, it's not like you blew a save in the middle of May against the White Sox.
And how many clean innings does he have? None.
No, not hardly any.
Yeah.
You blow these saves now. Where it's like, especially in the ALDS when it's a best of 3, and you're down 1-0 real quick, that changes everything. So I think two teams most destined to fail for me is got to be Oakland and the Tigers. The two teams that after the trade deadline, like, wow, I got David Price, well, I got John Lester. They were like, this
ALCS matchup.
Yeah. I honestly think those teams are two most destined teams to get bounced the quickest out of the playoffs. I really do. Because I think that the Tigers' starting rotation is good enough, plenty good enough. But I think with the way they cough up runs defensively, because they're one of the worst defensive efficient teams there is, the way how bad their bullpen is, they're just not going to do it. And with Oakland, how they've managed to play meh defense, and how their bullpen's been, okay, they got good guys like Gregerson and Otero and Abad and Doolittle and whatnot. They got good guys back there. But, with Gray struggling and Hamill struggling, and, Lester, he's amazing in the postseason. I have no doubts about him. And, Samardzija is going to be his first postseason. How is he going to do? So, I mean, you got a lot of questions there and how bad their offense has been. I mean, they can't score runs consistently, and they lost a lot of one-run games. You're going to play a lot of one-run games in the playoffs? I mean, how can you withhold faith in that? I can't. So those are my two teams destined to fail. You got any?
I think you nailed both of them.
You going to agree with me? You got none of the NL?
No.
Yeah, I agree. I wish I could go Pittsburgh.
Maybe San Francisco, but I mean, I don't consider them much of a threat at all. I think Pittsburgh knocks them out in the wild card game.
Maybe if they still had Brandon Belt. Because Brandon Belt, that team looked, in that first month of the season, when him and Morris were going off, god damn was that team looking good. They really were. Because I remember seeing a tweet between them and the Dodgers. They're like, oh, the NL West is over now, because they were up by like 8.5 games or some shit like that. And then look what happened. So, all right, last topic. The Brewers collapse. Mike, you and I both experienced painful collapses.
Don't remind me.
Do you think that this is the worst collapse of all time, considering how many days they're in first place?
No. And when you consider that, I mean, it makes it look worse. There's no denying that. But the inexperience on this team, the starting rotation, I mean, the expectations of this Brewers team, they weren't high. I don't think anybody saw this team as a potential division winner, or a majority of people did. I think that the Brewers had, maybe a third-place expectation. And when you look at other collapses, let's just go as recent as my 2011 Red Sox, a team that spent over $160 million, a team that was claimed the best Red Sox team ever in their franchise, and for them to blow a 9-game lead in a course of a month, I think that takes the cake right now. There's much other bigger collapses, like the Mets in 2007 when they blew a 7-game lead with 17 left to play. That was another team with a lot of stars. This Brewers team didn't have a lot of stars, and I don't know if stars constitutes what makes it a bigger collapse. When you look at the youth in their rotation, they're relatively middle of the pack payroll. I can't call this a huge collapse. No, it's a collapse, but it's not as big as the Red Sox and other collapses in recent history.
I agree wholeheartedly. 2009 Tigers, they almost went, coast to coast for first place. I mean, they were in first place like 160 or 159 days that season. And the way they choked it away to Minnesota and then losing game 163.
At least they got to a game 163.
Yeah, that's that is the worst collapse I've ever saw in my life. I mean, I never want to have to relive that fucking game ever again. They had so many chances to win it. It was an intense game. But, you were right. You and I, even after they got Kyle Loesch, we were like, well, all right. You got Gallardo and, Mike Fiers. He's done a great job this year. You can't underrate what that guy's done since they put him in rotation. But then you got Garza, and they have
Willie Peralta.
Willie Peralta, who's been really good.
Yes.
He's been really, really good.
That's the funny thing. I mean, the youth of their staff really hasn't cost them a whole lot. There's
No.
been a lack of offense, and then Garza hasn't been that great, and a couple others
A-Rod
haven't
had
been.
an outstanding year this year too, and then Aram had a really, really good year.
Yeah.
Ryan Braun was not as a typical Ryan Braun year, but he wasn't bad. Even though he experienced some injury. And Carlos Gomez, he was really good at getting into fights this year. And
Luke Roy was great.
Luke Roy was absolutely outstanding. So, I mean, they had a lot of guys come out. I mean, that rotation, I think, remember at the start of the year how good they were, the rotation-wise?
Insane. They were
filthy.
insane.
They were filthy. But, their starting rotation slipped a bit. Braun got hurt for some time. Luke Roy was absolutely outstanding. I'm not really sure how he performed in the second half. I'm not, too up to date on that. But, I mean, it is a collapse of some sort because they did have I think they had like a 7-game lead on the Cardinals at one time, and they were winning the division pretty handily. And for them to collapse, I mean, if you're a Brewers fan, you got to be disappointed because you don't go to the playoffs very often, let's be honest. And to have this year, we got Luke Roy, at one time was the batting title leader. He had a bunch of doubles this year. He's outstanding. And, how great your rotation was. K-Rod to have the year he had. It was destined like you were going to playoffs. But they're not. It is what it is, and who knows how they're going to be next year? Because I mean, I remember the last time they went to the playoffs when I think they got bounced by the Diamondbacks.
They got bounced by St. Louis in the NLCS.
They beat the Diamondbacks and they got bounced by St. Louis. They were terrible for a couple of years there. Yeah. So who knows? But I mean, if you're a Brewers fan, you got to look at it as a little bit of a positive because you got Mike Fiers, you got Gallardo, you still got Loesch, you still got Garza, You still got Luke Roy, young guy, still back there, and hopefully Braun bounces back. You still got Carlos Gomez, and still got Gene Segura, who didn't have that great of a year this year, and Scooter Gennett had a pretty good year too. So I mean, you got some players on this squad that are pretty good, but you got to be disappointed too because there's a pretty decent collapse. So not the worst.
And you have to be disappointed for the future of that division. I mean, St. Louis is consistently a good team. Pittsburgh has shown that last year wasn't a fluke, and the prospects now turned into good-looking rookies for the Chicago Cubs has to scare you a bit. And it looks like the Cubs are going to spend money this offseason.
Yep.
So if you're a Brewers fan, it might be a little shade of gray to see them perform better, but the future doesn't look too promising either.
And they got some blue-chip prospects they can trade because they got like 4 shortstops. They got Addison Russell, Javier Baez, and they got Alcantara. So,
I mean, I know he's going to the Red Sox, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Cubs try and make a push at Stanton.
Oh,
let me reassure you, he's going to the Red Sox, but the Cubs will be in the running.
That hit to his face made him realize how much he hates Boston. He's never going there. Stop your pipe dreams. All right, Mikey, you got anything else to add?
How about the Derek Jeter thing?
Oh my God.
Should we save it?
No, let's talk about it. I am so glad this is Derek Jeter's last week in baseball. Here's why. Derek Jeter's
you're gonna offend some Yankee fans, so just Yankee fans be prepared.
I don't care. Derek Jeter's an outstanding player. I know what he's done. I know how good he is. He's got 5 rings. He was an MVP of a World Series, 14-time All-Star, 3,300 some odd hits, 3,400 hits. But Jesus Christ, you would have thought this guy cured fucking cancer. Every commercial we see with Derek Jeter, all these TV specials. Look, I get it. This guy is retiring. He's got a gift from everyone. I mean, okay, I know he's good, but stop shoving it down my throat. I can't wait for him to be retired, so I don't have to hear about him anymore. But you know something? You probably are going to hear about him, because even after Mariano Rivera retired, who, by the way, is a better player than Derek Jeter, I don't care if he was just a closer, you had TV specials about him, and I think he's writing a fucking book and everything else. I mean, for 2 months after he retired, he was just as popular as he was in his last season. I cannot wait to not see Derek Jeter's name and hear him anymore. I've watched Derek Jeter for many, 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 many years. I know the legacy. He's the Yankees' fucking captain. He has 5 World Series rings, 5 Gold Gloves, Silver Sluggers, 3,400 hits, blah, blah, blah. You can write it on his goddamn resume and shove it up your ass. He was good. I understand, but I don't need to hear about it every 5 seconds. I don't want to go to the bathroom and hear on the radio, be sure to tune in on ESPN that watch Derek Jeter's last final home game. And, every time I can be watching fucking History Channel, because that's all they do is show old Yankee games on there, because that's the last time they were relevant was in the past, because they haven't done shit in the last 2 years. But I get it. But quit. Just be retired so I can watch next season without every fucking game being like, well, guess what? We're playing the Yankees the next amount of games. You got to go make sure you go see Derek Jeter. Because if you don't go see Derek Jeter, you're going to miss something special. Because you got to see this guy play, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, shut up. You know, it needs to be like back in the day where Mickey Mantle retired. I wasn't alive then, okay? But they had a Mickey Mantle day at Yankee Stadium. That's fine. They had a Derek Jeter Yankee Stadium day, Yankee Stadium. That's fine. Why do we have to give this guy fucking gifts everywhere he goes and talk about him nonstop? Paulie Canerico retired. What is he, fucking chopped liver? Man had like 450 homers, 2,300 hits. He had like 5 All-Star appearances. Check how many times he finished top 5 in MVP voting. But since he wasn't the Yankees fucking captain, he has a World Series ring. No, nothing. He got blue balls from the public. He's standing there with his dick in his hand because he's not Derek Jeter. I can't wait for it to be over with. Honestly, I can't. Go ahead, Mike. You got the floor.
Konerko reversed a curse, keep in mind.
Yeah, the White Sox hadn't won shit in like 90 years. And they won a World Series. And he gets nothing? Okay. No, I can't remember, Mike, in the last 3 years, with Chipper Jones, Rivera, and Jeter all going down. I've been watching baseball since 2003. 11 years. I can't remember players who have retired. Randy Johnson, for example, John Smoltz, Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, Pedro Martinez, you know, Hall of Famers, Craig Biggio. I can't remember these guys getting sucked off, having fucking Gatorade commercials, you know, about them, everything 2 seconds, more than Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera has the last 2 years. And like I said, I'm not trying to take away anything from them because I know what kind of players they were, but holy fuck, I can't wait for it to be over. Because if I have to, I hope no good player retires next year. Because I have to go through another season of wondering, I wonder what this guy's getting at this game. And I wonder what this guy's getting at this game. Who gives a fuck? Play the fucking games. Be happy you got to see Derek Jeter in his last season. Okay? You don't need to give him a gift. You don't need to remind me it's his last season. You don't need to remind me how great he was. Cool. You know, Ted Williams, he hits a home run his last at bat. He didn't even tip his fucking hat to the fans. He's like, I'm done, guys. Good one. I'm gonna go manage now. You know? Fucking go back to that. That's all I gotta say. I'm done with it.
I think you said it perfectly, John. But, you know, again, I don't want to make this an attack on Jeter because it's not entirely all of his fault. A lot of this is on the media.
He's a great player. It is. The chunk of it is.
Yeah.
You know, Derek Jeter, I'm sure he's probably tired of all the press, too. Let's be honest.
Nope. I don't think he is. If he was, he wouldn't have gone forth with the commercials and so forth. But, again, you know, the media's paying him probably a nice paycheck. You know, maybe they're even supporting his foundation or whatever. But, you know, this idea that Derek Jeter doesn't like the spotlight, can we please put it to rest now? I mean, let's be honest. You got to give him credit. He played his whole career in New York, and he didn't really ever get himself in any trouble. I can't remember anything important. He was always doing the right thing.
Really hot chicks. He banged a lot of hot chicks in New York. I mean,
Good for you, Derek. Good for you, Derek. But, you know, the idea that this guy, you know, is strictly a team guy and not a me guy, it's a lie. You know, and I don't blame him because I think everybody wants to be in the spotlight a little bit. And, you know, by Derek Jeter having this retirement tour, whatever you want to call it, and going in these commercials and having a patch on the Yankees jersey, Derek Jeter Day, I think it shows a little bit of insight that he is a little bit of a me guy, which is fine. But let's just not portray him as some ultimate team guy and is so selfless that, you know, he's not concerned about helping his image one bit because that's not true.
And at the end of the day, he played baseball. Jesus Christ. You know, I don't know, fucking Mark Twain, the guy who cured polio, got a fucking farewell tour. You know, after he found that. He was like, what the fuck? You know, Thomas Edison, when he, you know, helped invent the fucking light bulb, did they give him a fucking subway plaque with a number 2 in it? You know, a fucking subway tile? No. People went, thanks a lot for fucking lights, asshole, and turned the shit on. You know, come on now. Bill James, you know what he said? My neighbor's a great guy. Great dude. But I don't applaud him every time he goes and picks up his newspaper out of his front lawn. Remember that goddamn quote, because it's true. Just because he's a great guy and he's had a great career doesn't mean we have to bend over, pull down our pants, have the number 2 dildo there, lube it up with some Yankee lube, and put it up our ass to remind us how good he was. We get it. I've watched him a long time. He was good. I like him. He's a nice guy. But fuck, can the season be over with so he does not play anymore? So I can go back when watch the Yankees come in, Maybe they could talk about Masahiro Tanaka. I want to hear something about that fucking guy. Christ almighty. That's all I'm asking. So, I'm good. Mike, quick little plug here. Guys, tomorrow, Mikey and I are going to be doing a football pick'em show. We're going to start our NFL. We're going to do it. It's going to be called a podcast. It's going to be called Inside the Huddle. So we're going to go and we're going to preview every week of the NFL because Mikey and I, believe it or not, are pretty big football fans. And when we're not talking on here, we actually do talk a lot about the NFL because I hate his Giants so bad with a passion. It's not even funny. I hate Eli Manning, as you'll soon find out. And we're going to be doing a week 4 pick'em tomorrow. We're going to go into who we think is going to win, pretty much. And we'll probably talk a little about fantasy football as well in there because Mike thinks he has a beast fantasy team when he probably played with a bunch of 7-year-olds that drafted kickers every round. So, sorry. But
3-0 is 3-0, John. I don't care who you're playing.
hey, when you play with people that draft kickers in the first round, Mike, how tough is that league? Come on, now, son.
Who's to say that ever happened?
I know, that's the team. You don't play with the big boys, Mike. You play with the 7-year-olds that got a computer from mommy and daddy. Dad left the fantasy draft on, okay? And his son's like, oh, this looks good. I'm going to draft him. And he drafts, fucking
Robbie Gold.
He drafts Brady Quinn. He drafts Tim Tebow as his number 1 overall pick, So that's the kind of kids you play with. But tomorrow, it's going to be called Inside the Huddle. It's going to be week 4 pick'ems. We're going to get a little bit of a late start, but it's something I want to do on here. I don't care if it's NFL videos. You guys can like it, dislike it. I don't give a shit. I'm doing it on here. So tune in for that for tomorrow. Anyways, I'm John Check. That's Mike Hewitt. Thanks for watching, guys. I know this podcast is extremely long. And don't, Yankee fans, give me a bunch of shit. Derek Jeter is a good player, okay? I understand his magnitude. I understand your season's been like, we're a 500 team. Masahiro Tanaka goes down. We had 9 different infielders, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I get it. He's been great. He's giving you something to watch in a shit season. But fuck. Can't wait for him to be gone. That's all I'm saying. Have a good one, guys.